Good morning, all of you. I hope you have gone through the last session of our class. Today, we will be moving to the balance portion of the last class. So, let us move to the topic. Today, we will be discussing with prism formula. So, already you know what is a prism, and finally, in the last class, you have derived one equation, that is delta is equal to n minus 1 into a, isn't it? Up to this we studied. Now in the laboratory also we are doing the prism. There you are taking different angles of incidence and you are finding the value of angle of deviation for that. Okay, when you do the experiment you will get a clear idea. Here I am just saying, that is, when you are increasing the angle of incidence, for example, from 35 to 60 you are performing the experiment, that is 35, 40, 45, like that. When you are increasing the angles of incidence, you will be getting different values for angles of deviation, and you can observe that the angle of deviation starts decreasing like this. This is just an example. So, angle of deviation decreases like this, and at some point it reaches a minimum value and then again it starts to increase. Understand? So, if you are plotting angle of incidence and angle of deviation in a graph like this by taking I along the x-axis and D, angle of deviation, the last class we put delta there, both letters you can put delta along the y-axis, you will get a graph like this, that is U-shaped graph. Okay. Now, here you can see that at each angle of incidence, the angle of deviation decreases, then it reaches a minimum value and then again it starts increasing. This minimum value of deviation is called the angle of minimum deviation. Is called the angle of minimum deviation. So, how will you define angle of minimum deviation? At angle of minimum deviation, the ray will be least deviated inside the prism. Okay, the ray which is entering into the prism will get least deviated at angle of minimum deviation. Now, what is the significance of angle of minimum deviation? It's a very important question for your Viva practicals. That is, first point is, at angle of minimum deviation, angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence. So, at angle of minimum deviation, there will be only one value, that is the angle of minimum deviation. At this point, angle I or the angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence, which we wrote it as E. Okay. Second point is, the refracted ray will be parallel to the base of the prism. The refracted ray will be parallel to the base of the prism. Okay. As the refracted ray passes parallel to base of the prism, this angle R1 and this angle R2 will be equal. Okay, R1 is equal to R2. So these are the 2 points. First one is angle I is equal to E and angle R1 equal to R2, which can be taken as a common value R. Is that clear? So we already defined angle of minimum deviation. It is the angle at which the ray is least deviated inside the prism. Now, what is the significance of angle of minimum deviation? That is, angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence and the refracted ray passes parallel to base of the prism. If the refracted ray passes parallel to base of the prism, R1 is equal to R2. I take it as a common value R. So, R1 is equal to R and R2 equal to R. These are the conditions. Now, we apply these equations to the equations that we studied in the last class. I think you remember those equations. First one is, we wrote an equation like this, delta is equal to I plus E minus A. Okay. Next, another equation we wrote is A equals R1 plus R2. Now, in this equation, if delta is equal to delta m, that is angle of deviation, if you are taking it as the angle of minimum deviation, what we discussed right now, then this equation will change to delta m is equal to I plus, instead of E I can put I, because I equal to E, isn't it, minus A. Okay, so delta m is equal to 2I minus A. Now if I want to find I can write 2I equal to delta m plus A, or I equals delta m plus A by 2. Okay, now for this equation A equal to R1 plus R2, I have the value R1 equals R2 equals R. So this equation will change to A equals, instead of R1 I can put R, instead of R2 also I can put R. So what is that? A equal to 2R, or R equal to A by 2. So I got values for I and R. I and R. Now I want to find refractive index, and I have the equation sin I by sin R, which is the famous Snell's law of refraction. So putting the values for I and R from these two equations, this will change to n equal to sin A plus delta m by 2 divided by sin A by 2. Clear? This is the equation for refractive index of a prism. Sin A plus delta m by 2 by sin A by 2. And this equation is known as the prism formula. Clear? So, it's the continuation of last class. We are taking two equations, I plus E minus A and R1 plus R2. Then we are taking the condition for angle of minimum deviation. At angle of minimum deviation, I equals E, and also R1 equals R2, which we can take it as a common value R. Then we are finding the values for I and R. For that, I am substituting the conditions for angle of minimum deviation in these two equations. So delta is equal to I plus I minus A. From that I can find I equal to delta m plus A by 2. Similarly, R can be found out from this equation, that is A equal to R plus R, or A equals 2R, R equal to A by 2. So refractive index n equal to sin A by sin R, which is the Snell's law of refraction. I and R you can put the values. So n will change to sin A plus delta m by 2 by sin A by 2. This is the prism formula. Okay. Now from prism formula, if you are asked to find the value of refractive index or value of deviation minimum for a small angled prism, how will you find that? That is n equal to sin A plus delta m by 2 by sin A by 2. This is the equation we got now. Now if it is a small angled prism, you can neglect this sign, isn't it? So this equation will change like this. I am not striking it off, I am just neglecting, because we can change, if it is small angle, we can change the sin, tan, etc. So A plus delta m by 2 by A by 2, 2 get cancelled. So equation will become A plus delta m by A. Okay. Now n is equal to, I can write 1 plus delta m by A. Okay, now so n minus 1 is equal to delta m by A, or what is delta m? N minus 1 into A. This is the equation we already studied in the last class. So for angle of minimum deviation of each wavelength also, you can find the equation as delta m is equal to n minus 1 into A from the prism formula. I think it is clear. Now we are moving to the next section. That is, next topic, scattering of light. Already you have studied scattering of light in your smaller classes in your 10th standard. Now here, how the scattering happens, or what is the reason of scattering? before moving to scattering, I have to discuss a little bit of reflection also. So reflection, you know, what is that reflection? If light hits on a dense surface, a little amount of light is absorbed and a little bit is bounced back. So it is called reflection, the bouncing back of light when it hits a surface. And it can be classified into two, that is regular reflection and irregular reflection. Regular means a smooth surface like mirror or something. It is called regular reflection. If light hits on a smooth surface, optical surface like mirror, it is called regular reflection. If the light falls on a wall or something, it is said to be irregular reflection. Here we can't see your image, but you can, for example, if light falls on the wall, you can see the wall itself, isn't it? It is because of the irregular reflection, and light image comes in some different pattern also. So that these are the types of reflection. Now, another type, for example, if light hits on a spherical surface. Actually, this is a sphere. Now I am just taking this part only. Don't take it as a mirror or something, just a spherical surface. What will happen? The light, when it hits on a spherical surface, it starts to deflect the light in various directions. How? For example, here, if it strikes here, it has to obey the laws of reflection too. So this will go like this. Then this will go like this, isn't it? So here it is deflected in various directions. This deflection of light when it hits an obstacle or something in the atmosphere, it can be any moisture particles, gas molecules, anything it can be. So when it hits such gas molecules or moisture water droplets, etc., what will happen? The light gets deflected in various directions, and that phenomenon is known as scattering of light. Now, scattering of light mainly depends on the wavelength. As you know, white light is composed of how many colors? 7 colors, isn't it? In the order Vibgyor. From violet to red. Indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. Now these colors, different colors have different wavelength. Among them, red light has the highest wavelength. Okay. Violet has the least wavelength. Highest wavelength means, if I am drawing a red light here in the form of a wave, I can draw like this. It has the highest wavelength, isn't it? Now, if it is violet, how will I draw? Here, the highest wavelength but least frequency. Number of waves produced is less. Here, low wavelength but high frequency. Understand? Now, if I am taking white light hitting a particular obstacle, what will happen? It gets split up. As you studied in dispersion, it gets split up, and both red light and violet light will be passing through this. So, if red light is passing like this, having a higher wavelength, and this is our water droplet, for example, this is our obstacle there, what will happen? It will jump out of the obstacle since it has high wavelength, isn't it? Now, in the case of a violet or blue light, what will happen? Small wavelength. So, when it hits the surface or when it hits that water droplet like this, surely what I said in the first portion is happening here. Because when it hits a spherical surface, it starts to deflect in different directions. Understand? So, for high wavelength, the scattering will be less. High wavelength, the scattering will be less. And for low wavelength, the scattering will be more. Is it clear? So, that's the main point here, that is scattering depends on wavelength of light. This can be explained with the famous law, Rayleigh's law of scattering. Rayleigh's law states that the intensity of the scattered beam I is proportional to or inversely proportional to the fourth power of wavelength. Be clear with that. The intensity of the scattered beam is inversely proportional to fourth power of the wavelength. What does it mean? For example, if I take wavelength as 2, this will become 1 by 2 raised to 4. That is, intensity becomes 16 times, isn't it? 2 raised to 4 becomes 16 times. That means the lesser the wavelength, the intensity will be more. Okay? That is what I said right now. That is, a red light having highest wavelength will be least scattered. Violet light or blue light having the least wavelength will be more scattered, according to Rayleigh's law of scattering. Now, here one condition is also mentioned, that is I proportional to 1 by lambda raised to 4, where the size of the particle or the size of the scatterer must be comparable to wavelength. What does it mean? It means that when light hits on a particular molecule or something present in the atmosphere, the size of this molecule must be so small, then only scattering will occur. Okay? So when you write this law, you have to write this also. I proportional to 1 by lambda raised to 4, where the size of the scatterer or the scattering molecule must be comparable to lambda, or the size should be less than lambda. Then only scattering will occur. Clear? This is Rayleigh's law of scattering. Now, the practical applications or the life examples for scattering of light, we already studied in 10th standard. Here also we have to mention, that is, first one is blue color of the sky. Blue color of the sky. Now, what is happening there? You all know that when light travels through the atmosphere, white light, it consists of 7 colors with geode. So, when light travels through the atmosphere, what will happen? This region, that is violet, indigo, blue region, having the less wavelength region, will be scattered more. Isn't it? Will be scattered more. So, the particles present in the particles can be dust particles, pollen grains, water molecules, whatever it is present in the atmosphere will absorb which light? Blue color. They can all be visible in the form of blue color, and also our eyes are predominant to the color blue. That is why this sky appears blue. Okay. So, the white light having 7 colors. Then this region, that is violet, indigo, blue region, have the less wavelength. So it will be scattered more. As the scattering is more and our eyes are predominant to this blue color, we can observe the sky as blue. That is the point. Okay. Now, second application is the reddish color of sun during sunrise and sunset. What is happening there? During sunrise and sunset, the sun's rays has to travel a long distance. For example, this is the horizon. So, an observer standing here, during sunrise, the rays should travel a long distance to reach the observer on the Earth's atmosphere, isn't it? So, during its journey, what will happen? As we already said, this region will get scattered, because these are all of less wavelength, isn't it? This blue region is of less wavelength. So almost this region will get scattered off, and finally when it reaches the eyes of observer, he can observe which color? A reddish orange color. That is the reason why you are seeing sun as red during sunrise and sunset. Okay. Now when it comes overhead at noon, what will happen here? Noon, the distance is very less. Distance is very less. So this blue color will be less scattered. So it appears like white. No? Okay. So here, during sunrise or sunset, the light rays has to travel a long distance. At that time, the blue portion of the spectrum of that particular arrangement will get scattered more, and finally when it reaches the observer, only the reddish orange part will remain. That is why the sun appears red during sunrise and sunset. Okay. Now I will give two examples for you and you have to find the reason for that. Take it as your homework. Okay. Write down the questions. Explain the reason why danger signals are red in color. Number 2, clouds appear white. Okay. So I hope you all understood the topic. Go through the topics. And if you have any doubt, please do message. Thank you all.